source was reported to have said, well, if that doesn't work, we'll just have to think again. I hope we can have clear answers to those questions today. Somewhat similar questions arise in relation to the announcement by the French government on Friday night, amidst a flurry of mutual self-congratulation between the French government and the British government, that 12 British tornadoes were going to be moved to Corsica. This will apparently enable them to reach Yugoslavia without refueling in flight. I am delighted that it is going to be possible for these tornadoes to operate more effectively. But if that is the purpose of this move, why on earth has it only been decided now? And why are the tornadoes not to arrive in Corsica until the 1st of June, nearly 2 weeks from now? And then there is the question of ground troops. And here we have seen a steady change in the government's position. And it does them no credit to pretend, as the Foreign Secretary was pretending yesterday, that there has not been any change. At the beginning, the government's position was clear. Bombing would do the job. There was no need for ground troops to fight their way in. Any ground troops that went in would be there to keep the peace after an agreement had been reached and not to fight the Serbs. Then, bit by bit, we've had a change in that position. First, ground troops would go in if there was a permissive environment, something that was never defined. Then the formula was changed to a semi-permissive environment, equally undefined. On Tuesday, the 20th of April, the Foreign Secretary told this House that troops would only go in on the ground when they would no longer face organized resistance. The very next day, the 21st of April, the Prime Minister changed the language again. He said troops would not go in until the Serb forces had been sufficiently degraded, and he refused 3 times to explain or expand on that formula. Now, these phrases are not plucked out of the air at random, and they clearly do signify changes in the government's position, and there is nothing necessarily wrong in that. Those changes may well be justified, but if confidence is to be inspired, it is essential that those changes are explained and not denied. I give way to the Right Honourable Gentleman.
Listening to the Right Honourable Gentleman with great care, because it is quite right for the opposition to put questions to the government. But would he clarify his position, the opposition position, on ground troops? Is it the opposition's view that if it is not possible to find a permissive environment for entry, if the Americans refuse to supply ground troops, that Britain alone, or with some other NATO countries, should be prepared to enter by force into Kosovo in order to realize the objective? Is that the position of the opposition?
The Right Honourable Gentleman asks me to consider, it's a serious question, of course, but he asks me to consider a hypothesis which has not been advanced by the government. The government have not said, this is the basis of our military.
Dhe intensifikimin e veprimeve ushtarake deri në plotësimin e kushteve të vendosura nga NATO-ja. Duke ju përgjigjur interesimit e kryeministrit Blair, presidenti Mejdani parashtroi opinionin e tij për gjitha aspektet e krizës si humanitare, në të cilën po kalon populli shqiptar i Kosovës, ashtu edhe për perspektivën e zgjidhjes së saj dhe kthimin e të shpërngulurve në vatrat e tyre. Kryeministri Blair mbështeti opinionin e kryetarit të shtetit shqiptar se në situatën aktuale nuk është momenti për të artikuluar zgjidhje përfundimtare politike të problemit të Kosovës. Ai mbështeti idenë e presidentit Mejdani se vendosja e një autoriteti ndërkombëtar në Kosovë me gjitha komponentet e saj ushtarak dhe civil përbën një domosdoshmëri në krijimin e një atmosfere sigurie për kthimin e të gjithë të shpërngulurve në vatrat e tyre. Presidenti Mejdani dhe kryeministri Blair nënvizuan se perspektiva e rajonit është e lidhur me zhvillimin e demokracive multietnike, duke inkurajuar një frym bashkëpunimi dhe mirëkuptimi midis vendeve të Ballkanit. Mejdani dhe Blair theksuan se suksesi i një zgjidhje të tillë mund të arrihet vetëm duke intensifikuar veprimet ushtarake të aleancës, ndërkohë që presidenti shqiptar theksoi edhe një herë mendimin e tij se Miloševiqi është një kriminal lufte dhe ai nuk mund të jetë palë në një zgjidhje politike. Gjatë qëndrimit në selinë e presidencës shqiptare, presidenti Mejdani dhe kryeministri Bler dha një deklaratë të përbashkët shtypi dhe zhvilluan edhe një takim të gjatë vetëm për vetëm. Kryeministri Panderi Majko e vlerësoi vizitën e kryeministrit të Britanisë së Madhe në Shqipëri si vizitë historike. 50 vjet më parë, ushtarët e generalit britanik së bashku me popullin shqiptar luftuan kundër nazifashizmit. Edhe sot, tha kryeministri Majko, po përsëritet e njëjta histori. Konflikti në Kosovë është konflikt midis qytetërimit dhe vlerave të krijuara pas luftës së dytë botërore me barbarinë, por fundi është i qartë, triumfi i këtyre vlerave. Kryeministri Panderi Majko theksoi vendosmërinë e palekundur të qeverisë shqiptare në mbështetje të vendimarrjes së NATO-s për zgjidhjen e konfliktit në Kosovë dhe domosdoshmërinë e plotësimit pa kompromis të 5 kushteve që ka vendosur NATO. Milošević po krye në Kosovë një nga masakrat më të mëdha të shekullit dhe mbetet qendra më e pakontrolluar në Evropë që gjeneron konfliktin. Koncepti i Britanisë së Madhe dhe të Shteteve të Bashkuara të Amerikës për zgjidhjen e konfliktit është më i qartë, tha kryeministri Panderi Majko. Qeveria dhe populli dhe gjitha klasat politike shqiptare sheh tek Britania e Madhe një aleat dhe një nga partnerët më të rëndësishëm për të ardhmen dhe se kërkohet të ndahen marrëdhënie konfidenciale bashkëpunimi me të. Kryeministri i Britanisë së Madhe Tony Blair tha ndër të tjera se nuk mund të ketë asnjë kompromis në realizimin e 5 kërkesave të NATO-s. Tërheqja e trupave ushtarake serbe nga Kosova, vendosja e trupave ushtarake ndërkombëtare në Kosovë dhe kthimi i refugjatëve në shtëpitë e tyre. Kryeministri i Britanisë së Madhe Tony Blair theksoi rëndësinë e jashtëzakonshme të unifikimit të gjithë faktorëve në Kosovë. Është tepër e rëndësishme u shpreh ai që të njihet mirë barbaria serbe dhe të tregohet me një zë të vetëm ajo çka po ndodh realisht në Kosovë. Tony Blair theksoi me këtë rast çmimin e lartë të krizës në rajon të cilët po e paguan Shqipëria dhe nënvizoi gatishmërinë për të ndihmuar në ndërtimin e një të ardhmie më të mirë për Shqipërinë nga pikëvështrimi i marrëdhënieve me Bashkimin Evropian dhe me NATO-n. Zgjidhja e konfliktit në Kosovë, tha Blair, do të jetë një pikë these për Shqipërinë dhe të gjithë rajonin, një fillim i ri mbi bazën e vlerave të përbashkëta. Kryeministri britanik Tony Blair u takua edhe me një delegacion të qeverisë së përkohshme të Kosovës të përbërë nga zëdhënësi zoti Jakub Krasniqi, përfaqësuesi në Shqipëri zoti Xhavit Haliti dhe këshilltari politik të kryeministrit Thaçi zoti Bilal Sherifi. Në takimin e përzemër 40 minutësh u bisedua për temat më të rëndësishme që lidhen me zhvillimet e situatës në Kosovë. Delegacioni kosovarës pasi falenderoi kryeministrin britanik për angazhimin e tij rreth Kosovës dhe pastaj në emër të delegacionit kosovar zëdhënësi Krasniqi e vlerësoi situatën aktuale në Kosovë, tepër të vështirë në aspektin humanitar. Ai tha se ushtria çlirimtare e Kosovës është duke bërë çmos për të lehtësuar vujtjet e civilëve. Zoti Krasniqi pastaj shtoi
in linea generale per la Jugoslavia. Sorprese ed assieme scetticismo per chi è ammaestrato dalle piroette politiche di Belgrado. Poi la conferma da Roma, il succo di una telefonata fra il presidente serbo Milutinovic ed il nostro ministro degli esteri Dini. La cosa importante è che il problema torni in sede ONU e non resti più nelle mani della NATO e la disponibilità jugoslava. Confermato l'invito a Belgrado per il segretario generale delle Nazioni Unite Kofi Annan. Domani, con l'arrivo del russo Chernomyrdin, la possibilità di superare le ultime riserve jugoslave. Da una Belgrado in cui i segni della guerra diventano sempre più evidenti, partono dunque segnali una volta tanto precisi. Disponibilità ad una soluzione politica della crisi Kosovo, purché si passi dalle bombe della NATO alle garanzie dell'ONU. Partita su più fronti, insomma, il destino di 2 milioni di kosovari albanesi, ma anche quello degli equilibri futuri del mondo. Al russo Chernomyrdin domani la responsabilità di dirci se si andrà verso una soluzione politica o verso una escalation della guerra. Una guerra contro cui iniziano a manifestare per la prima volta in alcune località le mamme dei ragazzi jugoslavi.
In un modo o nell'altro, il che vorrebbe già dire che l'uso di truppe di terra non è escluso. Ma Clinton, ricevendo alla Casa Bianca il nuovo re di Giordania Abdullah, è ancora più preciso con il giornalista che gli chiede se la NATO intenda proseguire la guerra con la sola aviazione. Finora abbiamo ottenuto con i bombardamenti risultati notevoli, ancora molti potremo ottenerne, dice il presidente negando di aver bloccato l'uso degli elicotteri Apache. Non penso, aggiunge, che da parte nostra o dei nostri alleati si debba togliere alcuna opzione dal tavolo. La Casa Bianca precisa che è la linea di sempre, ma rispetto al vertice di Washington di aprile, quando la questione non venne neppure messa in agenda, si tratta di un notevole avvicinamento alle posizioni della Gran Bretagna e a quelle di chi al Pentagono ritiene che una decisione vada presa entro giugno, altrimenti non ci sarà tempo per riportare i profughi a casa prima dell'inverno. Clinton vuole certamente accentuare la pressione psicologica su Milosevic per spingerlo al negoziato, ma sono anche i sondaggi a preoccuparlo. L'orientamento dell'opinione pubblica sta cambiando, gli americani sono sempre più stanchi della guerra in Kosovo. Secondo gli ultimi dati ABC Washington Post, il 58% ritiene che la NATO dovrebbe negoziare la pace, solo il 38% che l'alleanza debba continuare i bombardamenti fino alla capitolazione di Belgrado.
Kosovo with few options and for the time being a bleak future, though the British Prime Minister was greeted with someone who may change things for the better. Mr. Blair toured this Turkish-run camp in Elbasan, hearing firsthand the now familiar tales of mistreatment and acts of cruelty. But this trip had a number of goals, refugees certainly, but troops important to his overall strategy as well. Touring the A4 HQ, it was a chance to boost morale and speak to the troops, soldiers who may yet find themselves fighting a ground war in Yugoslavia.
Well, I don't think we set arbitrary deadlines, but it is important, obviously, to remember that there is always going to be an implementation force in order to guide the refugees back home. That is part of NATO's demands. And in any event, as I say, Secretary General Solana carries on with his assessment and planning. But it is vitally important that we make sure that the air campaign continues and carries on doing the damage that it is doing.
Of course, the use of ground troops would be applauded without reservation here. Certainly support for the Prime Minister was remarkable. How spontaneous these crowds were is difficult to gauge, but thousands of Albanians cheered and jostled to meet the Prime Minister. The final stage of this visit was to underscore the importance to NATO and, of course, Britain of the states bordering Yugoslavia keeping on message. And here for the first time, Mr. Blair sat with senior members of the KLA and the Albanian Kosovar's chief negotiators. This has been a successful trip for the Prime Minister, but in Tirana, of all places, that is to be expected. The whole issue of ground troops and maintaining NATO unity is proving difficult, and in part explains why high-level diplomatic contacts, particularly with America, will continue this week. Stuart Ramsey, Sky News, Albania.
High Street
Journal. The men across Hungary's border with Yugoslavia. The Pentagon insists the prisoner released was not a quid pro quo for the 3 U.S. soldiers released by Belgrade 2 weeks ago. But meanwhile, in Brussels, new testimony on atrocities allegedly committed by Serb forces. CNN's Matthew Chance reports.
From NATO headquarters, fresh allegations of Yugoslav war crimes. Allegations made this time by the United States.
The number of individuals that we have a fairly firm count on as having been killed in mass executions has now risen to 5,000. I must emphasize that is a totally minimalist figure.
But with no free access to Kosovo, consistent reports of Serb atrocities from refugees cannot be independently verified. Pictures last week of the bombed Kosovar village of Korisha are evidence, say the Yugoslav authorities, that NATO targeting is indiscriminate. Yugoslavia says more than 80 civilians were killed in the attack. NATO acknowledges civilian deaths, but says this village may be one of many legitimate military targets in Kosovo, now ringed by human shields.
The ethnic Albanians reportedly are not being used as in an ostentatious manner to deter attacks, but rather are kept concealed in NATO target areas, apparently in order to generate civilian casualties that can be blamed on NATO.
These video images of an alleged mass killing blamed on Yugoslav forces in Kosovo have been dismissed as fabrication by Belgrade. But NATO and the United States continue to express concern for more than 200,000 Kosovar men they say are unaccounted for and the responsibility of President Slobodan Milosevic.
With respect to Mr. Milosevic and the future, let me just say that there is no immunity deal to be cut with the Yugoslav War Crimes Tribunal. It is not part of their mandate.
Despite an ever-growing list of accusations against the Yugoslav authorities, war crimes prosecutors can't complete their investigations without full access to Kosovo. And as NATO's air campaign begins its 9th week, there's still little indication about when Yugoslavia will open its doors to scrutiny. Matthew Chance, CNN, at NATO headquarters in Brussels.
British made a promise, an unshakable commitment from NATO to assure their safe return home.
We, the countries in NATO, have come together in this mission to make sure that we bring justice and hope to these people here. They are our cause, and we must not, and we will not let them down.
Later in the day, Mr. Blair met with Albania's Prime Minister, who pledged his country's long-term support for NATO's military campaign. Our coverage will continue in just a moment.
На външните работи на Югославия обвини НАТО, че използвала в хода на агресията си нехуманно и забранено оръжие. В разпространен днес меморандум към тези оръжия са отнесени касетъчни и графитни бомби, както и снарядите с обеднен уран. В периода от 25 март до 15 май на територията на Югославия са хвърлени 60 контейнера, във всеки от които имало по 240 касетъчни бомби, се казва в меморандума. През изминалата нощ силите на НАТО нанесаха удари по сръбския град Ниш, както и по магистралата Белград-Ниш. Според Радио Панчево, отново е обстрелвана индустриалната зона на града. Ожесточен артилерийски обстрел е имало над Белград и Ниш. Медиите съобщават за удари в Косово, включително и по бившия команден център на Армията за освобождение на Косово в Ликовац, който беше превзет от югославските части.
Съюзниците изпращат нови подкрепления под формата на самолети, съобщи днес говорителят на НАТО. Според Джейми Шей, 18 А-10 ще пристигнат в базите в Италия, а 72 F-15 и F-16 в базите на НАТО в Турция. В Брюксел днес бяха изнесени подробности около военните престъпления, извършвани от югоармията и полицията. Сега Зорница Венкова предава от Брюксел.
Силите на Милошевич са извършили масови екзекуции в 75 градове и села в Косово. 10 са населените места, в които има следи от масови гробове. 5000 души са били екзекутирани. Систематични изнасилвания се извършват в 3 хотела в косовския град Печ. Това са само някои от данните, които изнесе днес посланник Дейвид Шефер от Държавния департамент на Съединените щати. Той е натоварен от американското правителство да разследва престъпленията, извършвани в Косово от югоармията и полицията. Според него наблюдаваното напоследък използване на бежанци като жив щит е израз на отчаянието на сръбските сили. Посланник Шефер е събрал немалко доказателства в подкрепа на твърдението, че югоармията използва при различни случаи тактиката на живия щит. Известни са случаи на поставяне на албански мъже като авангард по време на сражения с армията за освобождение на Косово. На 6 май, облечени в униформите на Червения кръст, сръбски войници са се присъединили към бежанска колона. Сърбите са прикривали военните обозначения на колите си с стикери на международни и неправителствени организации. Друг случай, при който се използва тактиката на живия щит, е принудителното затваряне на бежанците в сгради, за които се знае, че могат да бъдат обект на съюзническите удари. Става дума за складове за провизии или всякакъв вид военни обекти, обясни американският дипломат и допълни, че очевидно това се прави с оглед при ударите да има цивилни жертви, които естествено да бъдат приписани след това на НАТО. От своя страна, говорителят на пакта съобщи, че в организацията са получили информация, че югосилите започват да изравят телата от масовите гробове и или ги погребват в индивидуални, или ги горят в опит да заличат престъпленията си. Очевидно властите в Белград започват да си дават сметка за заплахата от Международен съд, коментира Джейми Шей.
Continue to rule out the possibility of a ground assault into Yugoslavia, raising the question of whether attacks from the skies will be enough to settle the situation on the ground.
We want to know what additional comments and questions you have. Our email address is q&a@cnn.com. The fax number in the US is 1404-827-4056, or you can call us directly on 1404-525-6888. We'll also take questions from the Q&A real-time chat room. To join the online conversation, go to the Q&A webpage at cnn.com/Q&A. Well, let's get right to Q&A. Tom Clancy, General Horner, great to have you with us. Now, as much as I have my own questions, Tom Clancy, I'm going to start with a viewer question straight off for you. It was sent by internet email to you, and it says, what kind of message does the book, Every Man a Tiger, send? Is it against war?
I don't think anybody's pro-war. You know, saying good things about war is probably the ultimate form of pornography. I don't engage in pornography. The message of the book is that the people we have in senior command, the general officers who look after the execution of our national strategy, and also the protection of the kids who carry out that strategy at the sharp end, these are good, professional, intelligent people, and it's important that we remember that a guy studying to be a general works as hard as a guy studying to be a brain surgeon, because they both deal in life and death issues.
Well, as we had so many questions, I'm going to get another question straight in. General Horner, I'll put this one to you. It's by email as well. It came from Belgrade in Yugoslavia. And Anita, as her name is here, says, do you think that killing people with bombs or on the ground can make peace in my country?
Well, I think everybody abhors the evil of war, death and destruction, and that's what war is all about. And I'm not sure that we've necessarily thought through the politics of this particular war. On the other hand, in Desert Storm, the war was a lesser of two evils. It was a war to stop the rape, pillage, robbery of an entire country, Kuwait. So I understand where listeners in Serbia is coming from, and I fully appreciate the pain and suffering that goes with war. We're trying to be as humane as possible, but then again, I'm sure the people in Kosovo who are being raped, murdered, and robbed feel the same way.
Well, General, sorry, General, I was going to say, I'll put to you a quote from the book and put to you a question about strategy in here. It says, the quote says, when we are unable to achieve our political end through persuasion or threat, then physical attacks with the goal of controlling the behavior of our enemy looks increasingly attractive. Can I ask you then, are we successfully controlling the Yugoslav behavior at this point?
I think at this point we are not. That's why you have people arguing for ground forces, things of this nature. However, as long as the refugees are being shown on television, the painful state they're in, then the military people are being allowed to pursue the current policies.
A question from Switzerland next. Nick, your question from the phone.
I would like to know why does it take so long for Apaches to go in Kosovo?
On the question of strategy, General, I'll put that to you.
Well, I think it is true it's taken a long time. And at first I thought maybe it was a lack of readiness on the part of the Apache unit. But I think really in respect, after examining the debate that's going on in this country, there's a reluctance on the part of our military people to engage in using the Apache because we run a high risk of losses.
A question for Tom Clancy. Let me ask you, why would people want to read this book? I know, of course, you've had a huge success with the fictional stuff. What would be the attraction to them reading this?
Well, the whole idea is to educate, really, to tell people what it's like to be a general and to put them inside the head of a commander, because it's an interesting place to be. And if you want to understand how wars are fought, you have to understand how the people who plan and command those the forces in war think.
A question here that came by email. I'm going to pass this on to the General from Iceland. General, it says, can we expect airstrikes alone to defeat paramilitary forces in Kosovo that do not have a fixed infrastructure?
I think that it's very problematic that air power alone can solve this problem. However, that's not the issue. That issue should have been decided when we were formulating our military strategy to achieve political objectives. If we'd done that correctly, then we'd know what proper mix of air, land, and sea forces. I think that we can continue, and it may be successful.
Well, lots of questions here by viewers, so I'm just going to go through these as quickly as I can. One here that's from Australia. General, I'll put this to you. It says Yugoslavia claims that it has shot down more than 80 NATO aircraft. NATO denies that. How do you know which side is telling the truth?
Well, I have to believe that in the confusion of battle that many of the Yugoslav forces feel they have achieved success that wasn't there. I have found that the NATO reports, for the most part, have been deadly accurate, to the point where we admit mistakes that we've made.
Let me ask Tom Clancy. It follows up on this whole idea of information. It says, how can the most powerful military force in the world make a mistake and kill refugees?
Well, I think it's very easy to understand the excesses of war. For example, in Desert Storm, we bombed a command post that was being used as an aircraft shelter. If I had known it had been an aircraft shelter, we would have never bombed it. There's no doubt about it that people are dying in Kosovo who are innocent, who are not part of the Milosevic regime or not part of the Kosovo Liberation Army. And that's the unfortunate thing. That's why war should be avoided. It's armed people running around doing bad things to one another, and you're going to miss the target sometimes, and when that happens, you're going to have unfortunate results.
Holland on the line. Peter, what would you like to ask?
It's a question to the General. If NATO is going to win the air war within the next 3 to 4 weeks, what should they do?
Well, again, the strategy involved in the military part of Kosovo really is being conducted outside of larger questions like, can we achieve our political goal with military force? That's not necessarily certain. So I think what they can do, though, given that we're in it and we've got to get through it, things like you could put special forces on the ground that would help you identify these groups of people that are conducting the ethnic cleansing. You could use your information you're getting from the Joint Stars aircraft by providing immediate targeting from the Joint Stars controller directly to, say, an F-16 with a GPS-guided bomb to hit these very mobile and very fleeting targets. So there are things we can do. I think if we took more risk, put the A-10s, the A-56s, and the F-16s in close, we'd lose some, but we'd have a far greater effect on the people conducting ethnic cleansing.
And Tom Clancy, asking you...
Tuesday, 2 Serb prisoners arrived back home after being released from U.S. captivity. The 2 men were flown from Germany, where they had been detained, to Hungary before being escorted to the Yugoslav border. The soldiers were captured last month in Kosovo. Well, as NATO's air war intensifies, so does the debate about how to bring peace to Kosovo. Strains seem to be growing within the alliance over the use of ground troops in the province. On Tuesday, U.S. President Bill Clinton said the possibility of deploying ground troops remains on the table. But the German Chancellor Gerhard Schröder called a ground offensive unthinkable. Meanwhile, the Russians are continuing their diplomatic offensive. Their special envoy to the Balkans, Viktor Chernomyrdin, is expected to be in Belgrade on Wednesday. CNN's Walter Rogers reports now from the Yugoslav capital.
At this Belgrade news conference, a diplomatic opening perhaps. A new indication resistance to a negotiated settlement of the war may be waning here.
We are ready to cut the deal.
Policy or just public relations? Not clear, but part of Belgrade's new confidence seems to stem from the belief NATO unity is now fraying.
It's very hard to preserve unity when alliance as a NATO is conducting this kind of campaign, producing thousands of victims.
Belgrade seems to be pinning its diplomatic hopes on this man, Russia's Balkan envoy Viktor Chernomyrdin. Conventional thinking holds Russians and Serbs are allies. Privately, however, many Serbs are suspicious of Chernomyrdin, fearing the Russian diplomat is only Washington's postman.
Russia is trading with the Balkan issue to get something for themselves.
Return of refugees is already shaping up as a major negotiating snag. How many can come home? Many published estimates say there were as many as 1.8 million ethnic Albanians living in Kosovo before the refugee exodus. But this Yugoslav army officer says there are far fewer ethnic Albanians